Good morning, everyone. So here we are. I'll be taking classes online as most of you know that people are not available or whatever the circumstances are. So we have to make most of it. I'll be starting with prepositions. I have done quite a lot of grammar portion in the classes that we had. But the slides that I have prepared, we are going to be sharing that. And I have tried to make the most simplest of the slides so that it is very, very convenient for you to be at home, be in your comfort zone, and just study through these slides. So I'll be starting with prepositions. There is very few of the explanations that I need to do because the slides have been made in a very, very simple manner. But in case you have a doubt or you think that there is something that you need to ask me, please just note it down in your registers or anywhere that you want to. And the next time that we meet or we have classes online, you can just clarify those doubts with me. Until I don't think that there should be any doubts because most of the things are already done in school. Most of you have done prepositions in school or the other subjects that I'll be dealing with. So let's start with the prepositions. I'll be reading through this, and if and when required, if there is an explanation, I shall be giving you that explanation also. So let's start with the prepositions. The most important, what is the definition of preposition? As I always tell you guys that I don't need to have a Webster definition or something that is written in the Oxford Dictionary. I just need a definition that is simple, that is very, very understood by a layman. So let us start reading that. A preposition is a part of speech that shows the relation of a noun or pronoun to another word. So we can say that prepositions show the relationship of a noun or pronoun to another word. Prepositions are short words, for example, on, in, and to, that usually stand in front of the nouns. So, as I have always told you, we need to find out the meaning of the sentences. It should be very clear as to what is the meaning of a sentence. So, you have to make sense of the sentences that you're making, and that is not possible until and unless we add prepositions to it. So adding prepositions like on, in, to, by, for, under, above are all prepositions that only and only make a meaningful sentence. So let us see what do we have more. There are hardly any rules as to when to use preposition. The only way to learn preposition is looking them up in a dictionary, reading a lot in English literature, and learning useful phrases off by heart. The following table contains rules for some of the most frequently used prepositions in English. So let us just take a quick look at this. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I am not going to teach you guys prepositions since its inception, or how are prepositions, what are the rules to it. We are just going to be reading through the point of view of your exams because that is what we are looking at. That is the preparation that we need to do. Prepositions expressing spatial relations are of two kinds: prepositions of location and prepositions of direction. Both kinds may be either positive or negative. Prepositions of location appear with verbs describing states or conditions, especially B. Prepositions of direction appear with verbs of motion. This handout deals with positive prepositions of location that sometimes cause difficulty: at, on, and in. The handout is divided into two sections. The first explains the spatial relationships expressed by three prepositions. The second examines more closely the uses of in and on. So the most tricky part of it that comes in your exams are the prepositions at, in, and on. So what we are going to be doing here, we'll be studying at, in, and on in regard to locations and preposition of direction, preposition of time. That is what you need to concentrate on. So let's see, what do we have? Dimensions and prepositions. Prepositions differ according to the number of dimensions they refer to. We can group them into three classes using concepts from geometry: point, surface, and area or volume. Point. Prepositions in this group indicate that the noun that follows them is treated as a point in relation to which another object is positioned. Surface. Prepositions in this group indicate that the position of an object is defined with respect to a surface on which it rests. Area or volume. Preposition in this group indicate that an object lies within the boundaries of an area or within the confines of a volume. Notice that although in geometry, surface and area go together because both are two-dimensional, in grammar, area and volume go together because the same prepositions are used for both. At refers to a point, on refers to a surface, and in refers to area or volume. I have just tried to sum this up in the form of some examples so that you guys can get it clear. The meanings of three prepositions can be illustrated with some sample sentences. First one, my car is at the house. So your car cannot be in the house because it is not inside the house. It is at the house. It is parked at your house. There is a new roof on the house. The roof can be always on top of the house. Cannot be in the house. So please just take care of very, very small details because that changes the entire sanity of your sentences. So you have to be very careful when you're using your prepositions. The house is in Tepokino country. So the house is inside of or in the boundaries of a country that they are referring to. There are 5 rooms in the house which has a lovely fireplace in the living room. So this signifies or this tells us something that is inside the house. So I hope that everybody is getting the difference between at, on and in. Let us just move ahead. Let us see carefully what does at denote for. At calls for further comment because it is the least specific of the prepositions in its spatial orientation. It has a great variety of uses. Here are some of them. People, I just want you to read the sentences and just make out the difference. Where are we using at and how do we use it? It is going to be very clear. And once, as I've always said, once you start speaking in English a lot, then these rules or it is just going to come to you naturally. You will not have to get into the rules and specifications because once you know how to use it, it's going to be easier. Tom is waiting for his sister at the bank. Sue spent the whole afternoon at the fair. So here you find the difference, somebody waiting outside the bank and somebody waiting whole afternoon at the fair. So you have to know that somebody who is outside of a boundary, then you will have to be using at. Let us move ahead. Destination. So in what capacity is at used at a destination? We arrived at the house, again at the boundaries of a house. The waiter was at our table immediately. You cannot be saying that the waiter was on the table because that does not make sense. And you cannot be saying in the table because a person cannot be standing inside the table. So in is not to be used, on is not to be used. The most appropriate preposition is at. Direction. The policeman leaped at the assailant. The dog jumped at my face and really scared me. So I hope this makes more sense and you are able to differentiate between the uses of at. Let us move on now. How do we know when to use in and when to use on? Just hear me out. You just need to follow what I'm saying or whatever I'm reading. Just follow the examples. Nouns denoting enclosed spaces such as a field or a window take both on and in. The prepositions have their normal meanings with these nouns. On is used when the space is considered as a surface, in when the space is presented as an area. For example, 3 players are practicing on the field. 3 cows are grazing in the field. The frost made patterns on the window. So again, I'm sure that this is easy and I don't need to explain you more over this because the examples says it all. Let's just move ahead. Notice that in implies that the field is enclosed, whereas on implies only that the following noun denotes a surface and not necessarily an enclosed area. For example, the sheep are grazing in the pasture, enclosed by a fence. The cattle are grazing on the open range, not enclosed by a fence. 3 players are on the basketball court, not enclosed. 2 boxers are in the ring, enclosed. So whenever there is an enclosed portion, you are going to be using in. For example, in the hall. This is just another example that I'm giving. Another, when the place is not enclosed, we are going to be using on. For example, the players are on the cricket pitch or on the cricket ground. So, because it is not an enclosed area. So, this is what the difference is. When the area has metaphorical instead of actual boundaries, such as when field means academic discipline, in is used. For example, she is a leading researcher in the bioengineering field. Several common nouns of Several common uses of in and on occur with street. The first two follow the general pattern of in and on usage. The third is an idiom that must be learned as a unit. The children are playing in the street. Our house is on 3rd Street. He declared bankruptcy last week and now he's out on the street. All right. So again, very, very easy. I'm sure many of you do not need a clarification on this. And in case some people do, then please, as I have said, just note it down. And in the next class, whenever we are together, you can just throw these questions at me. All right. But I'm sure this is very simple to follow. So let us see what are the prepositions of time. I have made this chart over here and it is going to be very easy. I would be reading this chart and you would understand how are we using all the prepositions and how do they relate to time. For example, on can be used as days of the week. For example, on Monday. In can be used with reference to months, seasons, time of day or year or after a certain period of time. That is, the question is when. For example, in August, in winters, in the morning, in 2006, in an hour. At, how do we use at in reference to time? For night, for weekend, a certain point of time. Again, the question arises is when. Example, at night, at the weekend, at 9:30. Since, let us see how do we use since. From a certain point of time, past till now, since 1980. For example, it has been going on from 1980, since 1980 till the present. For, over a certain period of time, past till now. For example, for 2 years. Ago, a certain time in the past. Example, 2 years ago. Before, earlier than a certain point of time, that is, before 2004. 2. Telling the time, 10 to 6. So this is how we are going to be using preposition of time. I'll move ahead with some other examples. To, till, until. It says marking the beginning and end of a period of time. For example, from Monday to or till Friday. Till or until, in the sense of how long something is going to last. For example, he's on holiday until Friday. By, in the sense of at the latest or up to a certain time. For example, I will be back by 6 o'clock or by 11 o'clock I had read 5 pages. So by the help of these examples, I'm sure that it is very clear to you people. So let us not waste time and let us just move ahead. I have tried to explain a little more in detail about preposition of place and preposition of direction so that you know how it is used better by in the form of some examples. In, room, building, street, town, country, book, paper, car, taxi, picture, world. For example, in the kitchen, in London, in the book, in the car, in a taxi, in the picture, in the world. This is how we use in. Let us move ahead to at, meaning next to, by an object, for table, for events, place where you do something typical, watch a film, study, work, etc. Examples, at the door, at the station, at the table, at a concert, at a party, at the cinema, at school, or at work. So let us just move on. I'll be giving you some examples on how to be using on. On can be used in reference to attached for a place with a river, being on a surface, for a certain side, it may be left or right, for a floor in a house, for public transport, for television and radio. For example, the picture on the wall, London lies on the Thames, on the table, on the left, on the first floor, on the bus, on a plane, on TV, or on the radio. So these are some places that we use on for that are on the surface. All right. So I hope by some examples it is clearer to you. By next to beside, left or right of somebody or something. Jane is standing by or next to or besides the car. All right. So these are some of the examples. Oh, we have more. Let us just move ahead. Under. There are many people who makes lots of mistakes while using under. So let us just get this cleared once and for all. On the ground, lower than or covered by something else. The bag is under the table. All right. Below, lower than something else but above the ground. The fish are below the surface. Over, covered by something else, meaning more than, getting to the other side, also across, overcoming an obstacle. For example, put a jacket over your shirt. Over 16 years of age, walk over the bridge or climb over the wall. Above, higher than something else but not directly over it, a path above the lake. Across, getting to the other side, also over the other side, getting to the other side. For example, walk across the bridge, swim across the lake. Through, something with limits on top, bottom, and the sides. Drive through the tunnel. To, movement to person or building, movement to a place or country. For bed also. For example, go to the cinema, go to London, go to the bed. Into, enter a room or a building. Example, go into the kitchen or go into the house. Towards, movement in the direction of something but not directly to it. For example, go 5 steps towards the house. Onto, movement to the top of something. Jump onto the table. There are some people who always get confused between on and onto. Onto is when you're just leaping up or jumping up on the table, on top of something. That is when you use onto. From, in the sense of where from, a flower from the garden. So I hope this is also clear. Now let us see what is the role of a preposition. Prepositions functions to show relationship. This relationship may indicate where, when, who, or what. Most often, prepositions are used to introduce prepositional phrases. Prepositions serve to modify and generally function in prepositional phrases as adjectives or adverbs. Example of prepositions indicating where: along the path, amid, that can be a torment, throughout the garden, within, men. Examples of prepositions indicating when: since the storm had happened, after the party had happened, before the noon, until tomorrow. Examples of prepositions indicating who. Now our question is who. Besides Petra. Besides who? Besides Petra. Except who? Except the children. With who? With everyone. For who? For the teacher. Examples of prepositions indicating what. Besides the essay. Besides of what? Besides of the few. Besides of what? Like what? Like the dog. With what? With the chocolate. Okay, so let us come to the fundamentals of a preposition. A preposition is a word that relates or connects words in a sentence to each other. Prepositions can show direction, place, or time, as well as other relationships. All prepositions have objects. In most cases, the preposition comes just before its object. Usage of a preposition. In most cases, it is easy to decide which preposition to use. The following prepositions, however, need special attention. Use of at, on, in. We have already spoken about all the definitions and all of the examples of at, on, and in. But let us just do this some more examples of it so that it is much clearer to you. At usually denotes a definite point of time but can also be used for indefinite periods. At 7 p.m., at this moment, definite at midnight, and definite point of time. So at 7 p.m. or at this moment. At the end of the class, at night, at dawn. So it is indefinite. At Durga Puja, at Diwali, this is what it denotes, that is the indefinite time of it. So you have to make out the difference as, and I have always told you, you have to gauge your sentences. You have to know where to use at, where to use in, and where to be using on. On is used with days and dates. For example, on Monday, on 1st of May, on the annual day, on a May afternoon. In is used with parts of the day, with months, years, seasons. Example, in the morning, in September, in 2004, or in winter. I have heard many people say this, and they use in very, very inappropriately and very incorrectly by saying, I'm going to be coming on September. I had passed my entrance exams on 2004. That does not make sense. It is, you're talking about again specifically in a month or a season or at the specific time of a day. So you will have to be using in for that. Next, in is also used with the future tense to show the period in which an action will happen. For example, in a week, in 4 hours, in and within, in at the end of, within before the end of. For example, I shall be back in a week when a week is over. I shall be back within a week before a week is over. So I'm sure all of you understand what do we mean by in a week. That means that I will be back when the week is over or once the week is over. I shall be back within a week, that is before the week is over. So you have to understand the difference between in and within. Use of by. By refers to a point of future time and denotes the latest time at which an action will be over. For examples, the competition will be over by 6 p.m. It should be over before it is 6 p.m. But the latest time at which it can be over is 6 p.m. They will have declared the result by tomorrow evening. So it denotes the latest time at which an action will be over by 6 p.m. It should be over before it is 6 p.m. But the latest time at which it can be over is 6 p.m. And the last one is by tomorrow, where you're giving a deadline that by this time it is going to be over. So that is when you have to be using by. Use of for. For is used with periods of time to show the duration of an action. It is mostly used with perfect continuous tenses, though it may be found with other tenses as well. So here there are no specifications or no rules as to when do we have to use these prepositions, but you will always have to see in what tense the sentence is going on, and you will have to use the tenses, the prepositions and tenses according and complementing each other. So just take note of that. For example, let us see some examples. This discussion has been going on for 2 hours. It is in the perfect continuous tense, and so you're using for it. I have been working in this office for 2 years. For may sometimes be omitted. I have been busy the whole morning, for the whole morning. So you have not been using for over here, but it is totally optional. But if you would be using, I'm not going to consider that as a wrong sentence. Next, use of since. Since marks the point of time at which an action began. It is used only if the action has continued till the time of speaking. Hence, it is used with perfect continuous tenses. Unlike for, since can never be omitted. For example, she has been teaching in this college since 2001. A cool breeze has been blowing since morning. So something that has been happening and it is still happening. It is still not over. It has been raining since the past 3 days. So it has still not stopped raining. It is still raining, and that is when you use since. For example, if I need to tell you, if I were to use for in the reference of rain, it was raining for 3 days. What does that mean? That the rain has stopped and now it is not raining anymore. When we use since, it means to say that it has been raining since 3 days and it has still not stopped. So you need to find out the difference between the two. Use of from. From denotes the starting point of an action and is used in all cases except when the action has continued till the moment of speaking. It is almost invariably used with to or till. For example, the examination will be held from 8 p.m. to 11 a.m. The second example, he was the chief minister of the state from 1999 to 2002. So you are telling a specific or denoting a specific starting point of something, and that has to be mostly in the form of some years, or in the form of time, or in the form of a span of time. For example, say I have been going to college from January till September. So I am saying, I'm telling you what is the starting point, and that is being January till or to September. So we need to open a period of time, and we need to close it with a to. So I hope again it is clear. Use of at or in. At gives us the idea of an exact point and is therefore used with houses, villages, small towns. In has the idea of a larger area and is used while speaking of bigger towns, state, countries, etc. Examples: at Karol Bagh in New Delhi, at Ambala in India, at the end, and in the middle. Again, easy. We are speaking about prepositions of location over here, or preposition of place. At conveys the idea of a general neighborhood. In conveys the idea of something contained. For example, we say at the table to take our lunch. Please wait for me at the Regal PVR. Turn left at the next crossing. There are 2 Pepsi bottles in the refrigerator. You will find the stapler in the drawer. All right. So again, something that is contained, something that is bottled up, or something that has some closed boundaries. So that is also preposition of place, but in a more enclosed area. Let us see to some of the prepositions that are very, very important, and they can be a little tricky, specifically at the time that you have your exams. On is used while speaking of things at rest. Upon is used with things in motion. For example, the file is on the table. The dog sprang upon the table. Use of above or over. Both above and over mean higher than. Sometimes we can use either of them. For example, the flags waved over our heads. The flags waved above our heads. So when you see both these sentences, the meaning of it is almost the same. It's just how you say it. So the meaning is exactly the same, but you have to use it in a context. You have to use where to be using over and where to be using above. So as I have said earlier, this comes with a lot of practice, and then you would know where to be using over and where to be using above. But above, nearly all the time you can be using either over or above. It means the same thing. But over can also mean covering or vertically above. For example, my father put a blanket over me. There is a fan exactly over the table. So this means something that is above you, all right, or that is very, very in proximity of where you are, or something that is vertically above you. So that is what over means. Use of below or under. Both below and under mean beneath, and sometimes we can use either of them. But under, vertically below, it also has the idea of contact. For example, there was a beautiful lake below us in the valley. His shoes were lying under the table. She put the keys of the wardrobe under her pillow. Use of into. Into denotes movement towards the interior of something. For example, he jumped into the well. One stream flows into another. So I have tried to simplify this with a lot of examples. So once you go through these examples, you would exactly know where do we have to use the prepositions. So don't get confused. Just refer to these examples. You need not know the literal or the dictionary meaning of all these words. If you know it, much better. I'm going to endorse that you should know the meanings of it. But sometimes, for some people, it may be that reading through an example, it becomes easier to understand. So please always go through the examples. Next, figuratively. We have entered into an agreement to export handicrafts to some European countries. Figuratively, it does not mean getting into something like literally, but when you're entering into an agreement, when you're entering into a contract, when you have a treaty with somebody, so that means to say that you're getting into an agreement. That does not literally mean that you're getting into an agreement with somebody. You're not getting into the paper of it, but you're getting into something, getting into an argument. That means that you are into something, all right? So not literally, but just that is how you say it. So I hope that is clear. Use of for. For is used to tell direction when the verb shows the beginning of a movement. The children leaves for the school at 7 a.m. We shall soon set off for Mumbai. Okay, so this is how we use for when we have to tell that we are going to be beginning to go somewhere. That is when we start for school or for college at 7 a.m. That is when you start your journey. So that is when you mean to say. Whenever you're going out of town, you say that, okay, I'm starting from Bhopal. I'm starting from Bhopal for Bihar, for example. So you're reaching to a place. So that is when you are going to be using for. Use of against. Against shows pressure or contact. Examples: he threw the goods against the wall. Prepositions of direction from. Most common among these are from, of, out of. Uses of from. From is used with the point of departure. Example: he brought these books from the market. He had already gone from home. Okay, so again, very, very simple. Use out of. Out of is the opposite of into. It means from the interior of. He took a few books out of the almirah. So just like we use into to get into something, we use out of to get out of something. The example that you have it here is very, very simple, and it says it all. He took a few books out of the almirah. So something that you are getting out of something, that is out of. Okay, now that we are done with most of the important prepositions, I'm going to come to equally important prepositions that, again, as I have said, can be a little tricky. So let us just see example of some of these. From, who gave it? A present from Jane. Of, who, what does it belong to? What does it show? A page of the book, the picture of a palace. By, who made it? A book by Mark Twain. On, walking or riding on horseback or entering a public transport vehicle, for example, on foot, on horseback, or get on the bus. In, entering a car or a taxi, get in the car. Off, leaving a public transport vehicle, get off the train. Out of, leaving a car or a taxi, get out of the taxi. By, rise or fall of something, traveling other than walking or horse riding. Example, prices have risen by 10%. Buy car, buy bus. At, for age. She learned Russian at 45. About, for topics, meanings, what about. We were talking about you. So these are some of the exercises that I have over here. So I think we will be giving you this slide for you to practice. So I hope that a lot is clear, and let us just move on to my other topic now. As I have said, guys, if you have any difficulty, you have any doubt, so please just note it down, and we would clear this out. Till that time, you will have a lot of practice that have already been given in your books. So please just do a lot of practice of prepositions. Once you get the hang of it, it is going to come to you very, very naturally. So please just follow this, and I hope that all of you have followed and have understood what prepositions are about. I'll be seeing you in the next topic.